Hey everybody, welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe. And as always, I'm ready to dive into some seriously juicy info with you all today. It's like we're mixing up a knowledge cocktail here. Strong stuff, but oh, so smooth going down.
And I'm Sunny, your friendly neighborhood fact checker. I'll make sure we get all the ingredients right. Speaking of mixing things up, you know it's always a good blend? Travel whiskey and discovering awesome new things. You have to check out our friend Micky's YouTube channel, Micky to Life.
Yeah, Mickey's the best. He's always got something cool going on.
Man, the weather out there is just gorgeous today. But for all of you tuning in from East Asia, I really hope you are holding up okay with all those recent typhoons.
Yes, definitely sending our best. And hello, Sip and Talkers. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, no matter what time zone you're in. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I am bringing the high energy today.
You always do.
Just taking a sip of my coffee here, and wow, I am fully caffeinated and ready to go. Because today, we are getting into a wild mix of geopolitics and absolute internet drama.
Oh, the internet drama is real with this one. I actually got to tell you about our old friend, you know, the YouTuber Micky.
Oh, yeah, Micky. Wait, did he get targeted by the little pinks again?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
He recently posted a travel vlog on his channel, Micky to Life. And in the video, he took a moment to thank Japan and, you know, our allies for donating vaccines to Taiwan back in 2021.
That sounds pretty harmless, honestly.
Well, it gets better. He also made this offhand joke calling the pandemic a quote-unquote gift from Beijing. And he took a quick jab at how they still refuse to allow proper origin investigations.
Oh, boy. I can already guess what happened next. The comment section just instantly ignited, right?
Exactly. It was immediately swarmed by nationalist trolls, and it was just textbook whataboutism. They were spamming comments like, why are you thanking foreigners? Why don't you go ask the Taiwanese government why they blocked vaccines in the first place?
Wow. I mean, that is just classic deflection. But, you know, it is actually incredibly ironic timing for that specific narrative.
Right. I kind of chuckled when I saw it because of the massive news that just broke this August in 2026.
Yeah, the Tzu Chi Foundation investigation.
Exactly. Taiwanese prosecutors just concluded this huge case. It turns out that during the absolute peak of the 2021 pandemic panic, the Tzu Chi Foundation, which for anyone who doesn't know is this highly respected, massive charity, they were scammed out of 1.06 billion new Taiwan dollars.
Which is, what that in U.S. dollars?
Roughly 33 million.
$33 million. Just gone.
Lost entirely to fake vaccine brokers and fraudulent lawyers who basically lied, claiming they could bypass the government and secure doses directly for the charity.
See, this completely blows up that old blocked vaccine narrative. And that is exactly what our mission is for Sip and Talk today. We are going to objectively unravel this whole mess.
Yes, we need to look at the actual mechanisms. Was the government really blocking vaccines, or was it this complex cocktail of legal hurdles, geopolitical sabotage, and, well, literal fraud?
Right, let's start with the legal maze, because a lot of people ask, if a sophisticated charity like Tzu Chi had $33 million ready to go, why couldn't they just buy them? Why couldn't they just treat BioNTech or Moderna like a standard corporate supplier?
Well, you have to strip away how we normally think about buying things. During a global pandemic, you were operating under an emergency use authorization, an EUA.
And that changes all the rules.
Totally. Normally, a vaccine goes through a decade of rigorous long-term human trials before it ever hits the market. But with mRNA vaccines, pharmaceutical giants were developing them at unprecedented, historic speeds.
Because the world was literally shutting down. We needed a solution in months, not years.
Precisely. But that incredible speed meant they lacked long-term data. So the manufacturers went to buyers and demanded something called sovereign immunity.
Okay, break that down for us. What does that actually mean in practice?
It is a legal shield of absolute indemnity. The drug companies were basically saying, look, we are producing this at warp speed to save lives, but we will not risk a 1 in a million side effect bankrupting our entire company through massive global class action lawsuits.
So they needed a guarantee that the buyer would take the fall if anything went wrong.
Not just any buyer, though, a sovereign state. They absolutely refused to sign contracts with anyone except sovereign governments. They needed a guarantee that the national government itself would take that legal risk onto its own balance sheet.
Right. So without the Taiwanese government formally signing off to provide that legal shield, no amount of private money from a charity or a billionaire could force the manufacturers to sell.
It's like, okay, Imagine a city wants to buy an experimental rocket-powered sports car for its police force.
I love this analogy already.
Right, so the dealership is not going to sell that volatile machine to a private citizen, no matter how much cash they bring in a briefcase. The dealership knows it's dangerous. They will only hand over the keys if the city mayor signs a legally binding waiver saying the city itself will pay for the collateral damage if that rocket car crashes into a building.
Exactly. The dealership only deals with the city because only the city has the resources to cover a catastrophic failure.
Which, fully vindicates the former health minister, Chen Shih-chung.
Oh, absolutely. Back in 2021, he was absolutely vilified by the political opposition.
They were tearing him apart, accusing him of dragging his feet and blocking the private sector. But he kept warning everyone about these vaccine brokers. He kept insisting on strict government oversight.
He practically begged people to realize that anyone promising quick vaccines outside of sovereign channels was likely running a scam.
Yeah, he was putting up administrative walls to keep out fraudsters. And this recent Suu Kyi scam, losing $33 million, proves his strict defensive posture was entirely justified.
He was protecting the nation's legal liability.
Right.
And he was trying to protect these massive charitable funds from being looted by opportunistic criminals.
And I have to play devil's advocate here. I want to look at it from the perspective of an average citizen in 2021.
Fair enough. It was a terrifying time.
You are locked down. You are watching the case numbers climb every day. You don't care about sovereign immunity or legal indemnity shields.
No, you just want your family to be safe.
Right. So if the government was simply providing a necessary legal safety net, why did the Taiwanese public feel so intensely that the government was intentionally stalling? To a lot of people, it felt malicious.
Well, to understand that anxiety, we have to look at the massive clash between commercial contracts and U.S., China, and Taiwan geopolitics.
Because it wasn't just a simple medical transaction.
Not at all. The muddy waters get even murkier when you introduce Shanghai Fosun Pharmaceutical. Early on, this Chinese company purchased the exclusive commercial rights for the BioNTech vaccine in the quote-unquote Greater China region.
Wait, pause right there. Why does a German company, BioNTech, sell regional rights to a Chinese company in the first place?
It is actually standard practice in the pharmaceutical industry. BioNTech didn't want to build an entirely new distribution, marketing, and regulatory network in Asia from scratch. It is expensive and slow. So they sold the exclusive regional rights to Shanghai Fosun.
But the definition of that region becomes a massive geopolitical landmine because classifying Taiwan under Greater China commercially implies that Taiwan is subordinate to Beijing.
Exactly. And the Taiwanese government, trying to maintain its sovereignty, attempted to bypass the Shanghai Fosun proxy entirely. They tried to negotiate directly with the German BioNTech headquarters.
Which brings me back to the public's anger. While the government was playing this geopolitical chess game to avoid labels like Fosun, people were literally dying.
It looked terrible from a PR perspective.
Yeah, to the average person, it looked like the government was prioritizing anti-China ideology over public health.
Especially because there were widespread allegations that the government was intentionally stalling foreign vaccines to protect the market share of their own domestic unproven vaccine, Medigen.
Right, and when private donors like Foxconn, led by Terry Gu or Suu Kyi, offered to step in and help buy them, the government threw up like 8 incredibly strict application requirements.
Administrative red tape.
Exactly. To the public, those looked like deliberate roadblocks.
But we cannot ignore the geopolitical reality happening behind closed doors, because Taiwan actually almost secured that direct deal with the German headquarters.
Wait, really? It was that close?
Yes. The contract was basically ready to go.
Yeah.
The Taiwanese side had signed off using the official title Republic of China. But at the absolute last minute, under heavy diplomatic pressure from Beijing, the German side demanded the removal of the words, "our country," referring to the Republic of China, from the draft press release.
That is just wild. The diplomatic pressure from Beijing reaches all the way into a corporate boardroom in Germany. They essentially vetoed a medical press release.
They did. And it gets worse. When Taiwan compromised and changed the wording to just say Taiwan, the German side still paused the negotiations.
Yeah.
They said they needed to reevaluate, and then the deal just vanished.
Wow. So the blockade wasn't just Taiwanese bureaucracy. It was direct, aggressive geopolitical interference preventing a direct state-to-state sale.
Exactly. So with negotiations completely deadlocked by this mix of legal indemnity rules, exclusive commercial proxy rights, and intense geopolitics, you have to ask, how did the vials physically arrive?
Someone had to give in, right?
Yes. It required a massive multi-party compromise and an incredible display of international diplomacy that culminated in June 2021.
Okay, how did they finally untie this knot?
Facing boiling public pressure, everyone basically had to blink. Private heavyweights like TSMC, Foxconn, and Suu Kyi pooled their resources to fund the purchase, but they agreed to do it through the proxy, Shanghai Fosun.
So the Taiwanese government had to swallow its pride and accept the Fosun labels on the glass vials. They had to stop fighting the commercial reality of the proxy.
Yes, but crucially, the government stepped in to formally provide that required sovereign immunity shield to the manufacturers.
I see. So the private sector provided the cash and the commercial agility to navigate the proxy.
And the government provided the non-negotiable legal shield. Once that happened, the vaccines were shipped directly from the factory in Germany to Taiwan, ensuring absolute quality control.
That is a crazy logistical puzzle. But, while that domestic knot was being untied, the international community stepped up in a truly historic way.
They really did.
Think about our U.S. policy here. The geopolitical moves we make in Washington have real consequences, and our government, alongside Japan and several European nations, threw Taiwan a massive lifeline.
The logistics of that operation were just staggering. Japan donated an incredibly generous 4.2 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Yeah, and we donated 4 million doses of Moderna. Our government essentially bypassed the commercial gridlock to directly supply a democratic ally. It was a massive flex of logistical power.
And it sparked this global friendly cycle. It wasn't just the major powers making strategic moves. Central and Eastern European countries stepped up explicitly as a payback mechanism.
That is right. Poland sent 400,000 doses of AstraZeneca. Lithuania sent 259,000 doses.
Slovakia sent 30,000 Moderna doses.
You really have to wonder about the diplomatic risk those smaller European nations took by defying Beijing to send those shipments.
Oh, Beijing was furious.
But they did it because Taiwan had donated millions of medical masks to them during the terrifying early days of the 2020 global mask shortage.
Back when supply chains had completely collapsed and doctors in Europe were literally wearing garbage bags.
Yeah. Taiwan ramped up domestic production and shipped out high-quality masks when nobody else could.
It is a profound example of how early strategic relationship building that soft power pays massive dividends when a nation is backed into a corner.
It really is. But speaking of being backed into a corner, let's look at the other side of this equation. Let's return to Micky's comment section.
Oh yes, back to the little pinks.
Right. While nationalist trolls are busy demanding that Taiwan reflect on its vaccine rollout and pointing fingers at administrative bottlenecks, we really need to ask, how has the Chinese government handled its own responsibility for the origins and spread of this global disaster?
The contrast in accountability is just stark. And this is where the deflection playbook gets truly fascinating.
Oh, the playbook is extensive.
First, you have the rebranding effort. They successfully pressured the international community and the WHO into changing the nomenclature from Wuhan pneumonia to COVID-19.
Which, I get it. That is standard practice to avoid stigmatizing a region, sure.
But then we saw the WHO literally skip the Xi variant in their Greek alphabet naming system, just to avoid accidentally offending the leadership in Beijing.
Yeah, that goes way beyond medical nomenclature into pure political appeasement.
Totally. And then look at the origin investigations. When the world demanded to know the mechanics of how this virus jumped to humans, Beijing delayed access for over a year.
And when they finally let the WHO in, they heavily scripted the visits.
Right. They turned a vital scientific investigation into a highly curated tourist trip. They withheld the raw early patient data and the blood samples that were desperately needed to trace the initial outbreak vectors.
They hid the foundational data while simultaneously pushing the most bizarre blame-shifting narratives globally.
Oh my gosh, the conspiracy theories.
They actively promoted these through official state channels, claiming the U.S. military brought the virus to Wuhan during the Military World Games.
Or that the virus arrived in China on imported frozen salmon.
Frozen salmon? I mean, it sounds like a bad movie plot. But it was a calculated strategy to flood the zone with misinformation and confuse the global public.
But here is where the legal reality really bites back. We talked about legal liability with vaccines earlier. Let's talk about legal liability for the outbreak itself.
Yes, the Missouri case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The U.S. state of Missouri actually sued the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
And a U.S. federal judge delivered a historic ruling ordering China to pay over $24.4 billion in damages.
That is an astonishing figure. I mean, How does a domestic judge arrive at a $24.4 billion penalty against a foreign sovereign entity?
Well, the judge looked at their specific calculated actions. Because while Beijing was actively hiding human-to-human transmission data from the WHO in early 2020, which cost the entire world its golden window to contain the virus, they were quietly nationalizing and hoarding global personal protective equipment.
Wow.
They restricted the export of masks and gowns produced in foreign-owned factories inside China. They effectively crippled the global medical defense while publicly playing down the threat.
So they hide the fire, but they buy up all the fire extinguishers in the neighborhood before anyone else even smells the smoke.
Exactly. It is a staggering breach of international trust.
It is literally like a restaurant owner giving the entire street food poisoning.
Oh, man.
And then they legally change the name of the restaurant.
Right. Rebrand it so no one knows.
Exactly. They bar health inspectors from entering the kitchen. They refuse to show the receipts for their ingredients, and then they stand out on the front porch,
telling all the sick customers to go reflect on their own dietary choices.
Yes. It is just mind-blowing audacity. And we cannot forget the ultimate irony of their Sinovac vaccine diplomacy.
Oh, that was a disaster.
They heavily pushed their domestic vaccine to the developing world, demanding all this geopolitical gratitude. But the vaccine was so ineffective compared to mRNA alternatives that it resulted in a devastating outcome at home.
Right, because when they suddenly ended their stringent lockdown policies, that sudden lying flat unsealing at the end of 2022,
the lack of effective population-level immunity caused a massive wave of infections across their own citizens.
It is a tragedy born from a rigid refusal to admit limitations or accept outside effective help. The human cost of prioritizing political optics over public health is just devastating.
It really is. And, when we pull all of these threads together, what we see is that major historical crises are never black and white. The Taiwanese vaccine saga was incredibly messy. It was a collision of necessary legal protections, which we now know saved charities from $33 million frauds, commercial proxy wars, and extreme geopolitical stress. It was never a simple case of a government blocking vaccines just for fun.
And as we always do on Sip and Talk, we want to be incredibly clear with you, the listener. Our discussion today is based purely on objective facts, verified timelines, and actual legal rulings.
Exactly. We are not criticizing or discriminating against any nation's citizens. The citizens, regardless of where they live, are often the primary victims of these massive state failures.
Our goal is to call out state-level deflection and propaganda. We want to encourage critical thinking. It is so easy to fall for political slogans or angry comment section logic if you don't understand the underlying mechanics.
Right, whether that is the necessity of an emergency use authorization shield or the reality of exclusive commercial proxy contracts.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. Think about how easily whataboutism is weaponized to rewrite history in real time.
We saw right there in Micky's comments.
An orchestrated attempt to shift the blame from a global pandemic origin to a local administrative bottleneck in Taiwan. The psychology of this tactic is powerful because it preys on our exhaustion.
It really does. It is so much easier to point fingers at local bureaucracy than to untangle a web of international deception.
Absolutely. So when the next global crisis hits, and let's be honest, there absolutely will be one that. How much of the narrative you see online will be a coordinated attempt to shift the blame away from the source? Will you be able to spot the deflection playbook before it shapes your opinion?
That is the crucial question we all need to keep in mind. Thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation. If you appreciate this kind of deep, objective breakdown of the forces shaping our world, please hit subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast on your favorite app.
And a huge warm shout out to our friend Micky. Head over to YouTube and subscribe to his channel, Micky to Life, to check out his latest travel vlogs and show him some support against those trolls.
Stay curious, stay critical, and we will see you next time. Bye.